The rain felt like needles, but the fear was colder. It sluiced down my face, plastering the thin, light pink cotton of my shirt to my skin, a useless shield against the Tokyo night. Each splash of a car through the neon-drenched puddles was a gunshot in my ears. My lungs burned, a frantic, ragged rhythm against my ribs. I risked a glance over my shoulder. A shadow detached itself from another shadow, moving with a predator's unhurried certainty. He was still there. Panic, sharp and metallic, flooded my mouth. My legs screamed, muscles knotting, but I pushed harder, my worn sneakers slipping on the slick pavement. I was a mouse, and the cat was enjoying the chase. This wasn't just a pursuit, it was a dissection. He was taking me apart with his persistence, unraveling my will to run. The alleyways bled into one another, a labyrinth of steam and garbage and glowing signs I couldn't read. Then I saw it. A single, understated lantern hanging beside a dark wood door. No flashing lights, no booming music. Just a name etched in elegant script. Kage no Sakazuki. Cup of Shadows. It felt less like a choice and more like the end of the line. With the last of my strength, I threw myself at the door, stumbling into a sudden, shocking silence. The air was warm, thick with the scent of aged whiskey, sandalwood, and something else. Something dangerous. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum in the hushed, amber-lit room. Welcome back, my fierce hearts.
Take a deep breath.
You feel that? The thrum of a world hidden just beneath our own, where promises are sealed in blood and loyalty is the only currency that matters. Tonight, we're diving deep into the shadows, where a forgotten queen is about to be reclaimed by her king. Don't forget to show some love, hit that like, and tell me in the comments, what would you do if the only safe place was in the arms of the most dangerous man you've ever seen? Now, let's get back to the story. The world outside vanished, replaced by polished mahogany and the low murmur of ice clinking against glass. My breath hitched, coming in painful, sobbing gasps. I leaned against the heavy door, my soaked pink shirt clinging to me like a second skin, my very presence a disruption to the bar's serene, lethal elegance. A few patrons in expensive suits glanced at me, their eyes dismissive, before turning away. But one gaze held. From the darkest corner of the room, in a plush leather booth, a man was watching me. He wasn't just looking, he was absorbing me, his stillness a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. He wore a black suit tailored with such precision it seemed fused to his body. His face was a masterpiece of sharp angles and aristocratic calm, but his eyes were ancient and dark, holding an intensity that pinned me in place. He wasn't surprised to see me. He looked like he had been waiting. He made a small, almost imperceptible gesture with one hand, a silent summons. My feet, seemingly disconnected from my panicked brain, began to move. I crossed the floor, each step feeling both heavy and weightless, my path illuminated by the low-hanging amber lights. The world narrowed to the space between me and him. I slid into the booth opposite him, the leather cool against my damp skin. He said nothing, simply pushed a glass of water toward me. My hands were shaking too badly to take it. He watched the tremor, his expression unreadable. "You are safe here," he said. His voice was a low rumble, like distant thunder, the Japanese accent a subtle, melodic undercurrent. It wasn't a reassurance, it was a statement of fact and absolute. I finally found my own voice, a raw whisper. There was a man, he was following me. His gaze flickered toward the door, a flicker so fast I might have imagined it. He is no longer a concern. I didn't know how he could know that, but I believed him. The sheer, unshakable certainty in his tone settled deep in my bones, a strange anchor in the chaos. My eyes caught on the ink coiling above the crisp white collar of his shirt, the scales of a dragon, intricate and black, disappearing beneath the fabric. He saw me looking. A ghost of a smile touched his lips, a dangerous, beautiful thing. "My name is Ryota." The sight of his dragon tattoo, the dark ink stark against his skin, sent a jolt through me. It wasn't just a pattern, it was a key, a memory, fragmented and sharp, sliced through the fog in my mind. crimson silk brushing against my cheek, the scent of night-blooming jasmine and the acrid tang of gunpowder. A low laugh that vibrated through my entire body. My head throbbed, a dull, pounding ache behind my eyes. I squeezed them shut, trying to grasp the fleeting image, but it dissolved like smoke. When I opened them, Ryota was watching me, his dark eyes missing nothing. He knew something had just happened inside my head. The fear I'd felt on the street was a wild, frantic thing. This was different. This was a deep, primal awe, the kind a rabbit feels just before the eagle strikes. Yet, impossibly, my body was relaxing. The frantic pulse in my throat was slowing to a steady, heavy beat. My muscles, coiled tight for flight, were unspooling in his presence. My mind screamed that this man was infinitely more dangerous than the one I'd fled, but my body recognized him. It felt like a homecoming. Just then, a shadow fell across the frosted glass of the door. A large, brutish figure tried the handle. My blood turned to ice. It was him. But the door didn't open. Another man, a giant in a doorman's coat, materialized from the entryway, blocking the path. Words were exchanged, too low for me to hear, and then the shadow was gone. The entire exchange outside took less than 10 seconds. Inside the bar, nothing had changed. The low music still played. The patrons still talked in hushed tones. But the air around our booth had grown thick, charged with unspoken history. Ryota's attention was solely, intensely on me. He leaned forward slightly, the amber light carving shadows across his face. "They told me you were gone," he said, his voice dropping, becoming raw, laced with a pain so profound it stole the air from my lungs. "They lied." My mind reeled. They? Who were they? What did he mean, gone? Questions swarmed, but I couldn't form a single one. His gaze dropped to my wrist, which was resting on the table. With infinite slowness, he reached across, his fingers warm and calloused as they brushed against my skin. His thumb found the faint, silvery line of a scar there, a mark I'd had for as long as I could remember, its origins a complete mystery. He traced it with a reverence that made my breath catch. "I gave you this," he murmured, his voice thick with memory. To match mine, he turned his own wrist over, revealing an identical silver scar. Before I could process the impossibility of it, he lifted my hand, raising it to his lips and pressing a soft, lingering kiss to the scar. Then he looked up, his eyes locking with mine, and the entire world tilted on its axis as he leaned in and captured my mouth with his. It was a kiss of devastating tenderness and brutal possession, a brand of ownership and a vow of protection all at once. It was the taste of homecoming. He pulled away, leaving my lips tingling, my mind shattered. He stood, a silent command for me to follow. There was no question of disobeying. He led me out a back exit, into a private garage where a sleek black car waited, its engine purring. The city became a blur of light and speed. We didn't go to a police station or a hotel. We ascended, climbing floor after floor in a silent, private elevator until it opened directly into a sprawling penthouse. The space was a testament to minimalist wealth. Vast windows revealed the glittering expanse of Tokyo, floors were polished stone, and the furniture was sparse but exquisite. It was a king's domain. He led me to a low sofa and poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. "Your name is not Aaliyah," he began, his voice steady, a stark contrast to the chaos inside me. "That is the name they gave you, the life they built for you. A cage of poverty and anonymity to keep you docile. To keep you from me." He watched me, gauging my reaction. I was just staring, unable to speak. "Your name," he continued, his voice softening, "is Hisako. And you are my wife." He let the word hang in the air. Wife. It didn't feel real. None of this felt real. There was an attack. A betrayal by Ishikawa, a rival. They wanted my territory, my power. The easiest way to break me was to take you. They orchestrated an explosion. Everyone believed you were dead. I believed you were dead. But they saved you, erased you, and hid you on the other side of the world, a ghost with no memory of who she was. He saw the disbelief, the fear warring with a flicker of something else in my eyes. "Your mind may not remember," Ryota said, his voice a low, hypnotic hum. "But your body does. Your soul does." He led me down a hallway to a wall that looked like solid concrete. He pressed his palm against an unseen panel, and a section of the wall slid away with a soft hiss, revealing a room beyond. It was an armory, but it was also a sanctuary. Racks of gleaming firearms were mounted with surgical precision. Blades of every length and shape rested in velvet-lined cases. And on one wall, a single mannequin stood, clad in a suit of sleek, black tactical gear tailored for a woman's frame. My frame. My eyes were drawn to a large, framed photograph on the far wall. I stepped closer, my heart pounding a heavy, resonant beat. It was the two of us. Ryota looked the same, a king in his element. But the woman beside him, it was me. But it wasn't. Her hair was longer, braided with silver thread. Her eyes, my eyes, were not filled with fear but with a cold, lethal fire. She held a pair of wickedly curved kama blades, and she stood back to back with him, a warrior queen beside her king. The sight of it, the raw power emanating from the woman in the photograph, shattered another wall in my mind. A new memory flooded in, the weight of those blades in my hands, the scent of rain on steel, the absolute trust in the man at my back. Ryota came to stand behind me. He picked up a pistol from a nearby table and placed it in my hand. "Do you remember?" he whispered. The cool, heavy metal felt like an extension of my own arm. My fingers curled around the grip, my thumb finding the safety, my index finger resting alongside the trigger guard. Perfect. It was like coming home. "He was just bait," I said, the words coming from a place deep within me, a voice that was mine but stronger, colder. I turned from the photograph, the pistol held loosely, comfortably in my hand. The man on the street. Gideon. He wasn't meant to catch me. He was meant to herd me. To lead me here. To you, Ryota nodded, his dark eyes filled with a grim pride. "Ishikawa is arrogant. He believes you are still the broken thing he created. He thinks your presence makes me weak, sentimental. He doesn't know that he has just returned my greatest weapon to my side, the penthouse, once a symbol of sterile wealth, now felt like a fortress. Our fortress." A low chime echoed through the room, a discreet electronic sound. Ryota glanced at a tablet on the wall. A schematic of the building was displayed, dotted with multiple red icons ascending rapidly. "The elevators. They're here," he said, his voice utterly calm. The fear I should have felt, the terror that had owned me just an hour before, was gone. In its place was a chilling, exhilarating stillness. The fog in my head was gone, burned away by adrenaline and memory. I was Hisako. I was the dragon's empress, the other half of the monster who ruled this city's shadows. I looked at Ryota, at the man who had mourned me, who had found me, who trusted me to stand with him now. A slow smile spread across my face, a mirror of the dangerous one he wore. "Let them come," I said, my voice dropping to a purr. It's been far too long since I've had a proper welcome home party. The first wave of intruders burst through the glass of the main windows, a shower of glittering shards raining down on the stone floor. They were clad in black, armed with automatic weapons, moving with professional efficiency. But we were faster. We were a whirlwind of calculated violence. Ryota moved like a phantom, his strikes precise and final. I moved with him, a seamless dance of death we had perfected long ago. The pistol felt like a part of me, each shot finding its mark. I ducked under a wild swing from a sword, sweeping the man's legs out from under him and finishing him with a single, clinical shot as he fell. There was no panic, only a hyper-focused clarity. I could feel every enemy in the room, track their movements, anticipate their attacks. This was who I was. This was my art. We flowed through the chaos, back to back, a singular, unstoppable force. More men poured in from the stairwells, but they were just lambs to the slaughter. We were the wolves. The last of the guards fell, and a new figure stepped through the shattered frame of the window, flanked by two larger bodyguards. He was older, with a cruel mouth and eyes like chips of ice. Ishikawa. He stared at me, his face a mask of disbelief. Impossible, he sneered. I had you remade. A pathetic, helpless girl, I raised my pistol, the barrel steady on his heart. You tried to bury me, I said, my voice low, and carrying across the ruined room. You forgot I was a seed, he lunged, a desperate, final move. But Ryota was there, a shadow intercepting him. My shot was the final word. The silence that descended was absolute, broken only by the whisper of the wind through the shattered windows. The scent of cordite hung heavy in the air, a familiar, almost comforting perfume. The bodies of Ishikawa's men lay scattered across the pristine floor, dark stains blooming on the pale stone. Ryota stood over Ishikawa's form, his expression impassive, the lord of his domain surveying the necessary carnage. He turned to me, his gaze sweeping over me, checking for injury. I was untouched. He, however, had a shallow cut along his forearm, bleeding sluggishly. I walked to him, taking his arm gently. He allowed it, his body relaxing under my touch. We moved to the bathroom, a cavern of black marble and steel. I opened a mirrored cabinet, my hands finding the disinfectant and bandages without conscious thought. I knew where everything was. I had stocked this cabinet myself a lifetime ago. As I cleaned the wound, his eyes never left my face. There was no more pain in them, only a deep, profound reverence. Welcome home, Hisako, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. When I was done, he led me to the bedroom. My clothes were there, not the cheap jeans and soaked pink shirt of my other life, but a closet filled with silks and leathers. I chose a crimson silk robe, the fabric cool and familiar against my skin. He stood by the window, looking out at the sprawling, glittering city below. Our city. I came to stand beside him, resting my head against his shoulder. He wrapped an arm around my waist, pulling me tight against him. He was my anchor, my king. And I was his queen, his empress, returned from the ashes. He tilted my chin up and kissed me, a slow, deep kiss of promises fulfilled and a future reclaimed. Everything the light touches, he whispered against my lips, is our kingdom.